welcome into the 3B podcast, where we're with you from the first kick to the last pitch. Easy for me to say, right? Stumble over the cold open every time there. But, man, we have made it. The Sunbelt has put a second team into Omaha for the second year in a row, and it's not the same team. It's the Troy Trojans, and because of that, Marv and I are welcoming in the Troy Boyz, Joe and Seabass, onto the show tonight. Pleasure to be with you guys this evening, and time to celebrate a little bit, right?
Absolutely. Yeah, thanks for having us.
Yeah, guys, thanks for having us. It's always a party down in Pike County.
Nice. Yes, it seems like that. We were talking about it before we went live here. You've got a championship appearance in the Sunbelt football. You made the NCAA tournament in basketball, and now you've made the Omaha for baseball. I mean, I don't know if it can get much better than that, right?
Yeah, I mean, unless, we can like summarily eject Chip Lindsey from the country or something like that, I don't know that Troy fans are going to get much happier. Maybe when we see Neil Brown wearing the Cardinal polo as we play West Virginia and Omaha, maybe that'll be another big moment. But yeah, we've just had an excellent run of things. I'm almost wanting to call in a welfare check on our friends in Hattiesburg and Harrisonburg, all the burgs. Where are they at? We're sick of pulling weight around here.
Yeah, I can feel that. I can feel my first question is, how is Bass going to swim upstream to get all the way to Omaha from down there in Pike County, right?
I still haven't figured it out.
Okay.
Yeah, but we're working on it. I'm going to have to get some friends to MapQuest me a route, and we'll get that printed on the kelp, and I'll roll my way up there.
Nice.
Hey, quick question. Are you guys going to Omaha?
I just don't see it in the stars for me. I've already planned my wonderful summer vacations, and truthfully, this was not in the plans to get in the way. So, unfortunately, the Bass is not going to make it. I don't know about Joe.
Yeah, I looked at it, but I have a seat at a swim up bar in Cancun that I booked a long time ago, and so I will be there. But I will be the most obnoxious Troy fan in an international environment. So hopefully you guys don't see me on the news for causing an international incident or anything like that.
That's awesome. You know what? I will say, before Coastal was even in the Sunbelt, I happened to be in the Myrtle Beach area for vacation when Coastal was making their run. And obviously, it's a tourist destination, tons of people who had no connection to Coastal, but there was people that were just buying in. And when you're at the beach and you're coming in late afternoon, early evening, and that's what's on TV, I mean, Joe, you're going to have a blast down there in Cancun, because people that don't even typically care about baseball are going to be showing sudden interest because somebody's at the bar getting loud about their favorite team, and it's probably going to be a good time nonetheless.
Oh, I am quite sure of it, and I've made more than my fair share of self-defense Troy fans, where they go, I'm just going to root for this team, or this guy's not going to leave me alone. Yeah, I watched us beat LSU in 2017 at a hotel bar in San Diego, and I had a bunch of people who had never heard of Troy, Alabama, all of a sudden very invested in Brandon Silvers and the gang. So I'm sure we'll do it again this time.
That would be fun. So I don't have any Troy merch. That's your guys' fault for not sending us some. Okay, so we'll put that out into the universe. But I do have a great wrestler with Troy colors in the background here, Daniel Bryan, and he became like the fan favorite because he just kept fighting his way through it. So I felt like this was an appropriate T-shirt to wear on the show tonight, because you might have a bunch of people saying yes, yes, yes in the crowd if Troy could keep putting these runs up. I mean, bottom line, Marv, we talked about it a lot last year. Troy was left out of the field, and we believe so.
Yeah, that was a disgrace.
Exactly. There was many teams that we thought, how did they get in? And Troy did not get in. And what's crazy is this year your record isn't even as good as it was last year. Obviously, there's a lot to play with that, with strength of schedule and everything. But it's funny that the team that looks worse on paper, quote unquote, is actually better, or at least has made it farther this season than last year's version. I mean, I guess maybe start us off there. Like, how much of that played into you guys doing it this year, getting this far, like the fight in the team?
I'll start and I'll let Joe piggy. I'll just go back to last year, and I think objectively, when you speak of just as a college baseball fan, if you have a team in arguably one of the best 5 conferences in college baseball, win every series of your regular season and not get a seat at the table, that's a problem. And that's something that I feel like somebody dropped the ball on pretty hard. You cannot let one poor tournament appearance ignore all of that work. And so I feel like Coach Meade looked at that and said, the solution has got to be the out of conference stuff. Like that's where the difference was made. And so a real clear and concerted effort was put into our schedule this year. Dom, you brought it up. We entered the Gainesville Regional as the number 6 strength of schedule in the nation and number 1 out of conference. And so I feel like that was the ultimate difference maker, is that we scheduled teams like we're about to go face in Omaha during the regular season. And I feel like that's ultimately what gave us the tip of the hat, is we had all the other metrics on paper, even though our record wasn't stellar. We're entering Omaha with the highest loss total in the modern college World Series era. And so we look at this as not we're a bad team because our record is bad. We look at this as we are a good team because we went against the teams we're about to go face, and we beat some of them and put ourselves in a position to be successful. And I feel like these guys know that. I feel like we've built a team and a roster, and we built a schedule to put us in this position.
Yeah, I think Skylar Meade's coaching career, if it was a documentary, they would show us not being selected last year, and then it would cut to Michael Jordan saying, and I took that personally. Because I do think he walked away from that and said, it doesn't do us any good. And I think sunbelt teams are going to start to see this. There's one team that's up on a hill, and they're real proud about it. And I think they're going to learn from this after this season is, yes, it's nice to have a weekend series against Campbell and beat the Camels, but it really doesn't do you much good. It does you a lot better to drive a little bit further to Athens and play against a team like Georgia, where you might lose, but people give a lot more respect to that, and you might end up winning. And then your team's going to have confidence when they get in a position like this. Troy's going to show up to Omaha having beaten 2 teams that are on the other side of the bracket. So there's no fear there. And so I think what I hope that our Sunbelt brethren take away from this is it really doesn't do you any good to hide behind, playing nothing against these teams, but playing a SWAC team and then playing, maybe another in-state team that's of lesser strength of schedule, because it just, it doesn't help you in the end when you're kind of on the bubble, and it doesn't help get your team ready.
Yeah, we've learned the lesson, the past couple of years doing this podcast. RPI matters, and what contributes to that? Strength of schedule. Who did you play on the road? How did you perform against them? And yeah, you're right. You're battle tested going into Omaha, playing with house money, and baseball's a crazy game. You never know what will happen.
Yeah, definitely don't. I had a little fun with the graphic here. I was trying to come up with something to play with. We had Blake on with Coach Walgamot before the season, and he talked about his pet shark. So my son continues to always say, whenever Troy's on TV, is that the guy with the shark, the pet shark? So yeah, the Australian had a pet shark. Crazy thing to think about. But Blake Cavill's been one of his favorite players because of that. And then we've got Jabe Ruth over here because he just continues to jack home runs, looking like Woody and Buzz, because a little play on the Toy Story thing there. So I had a little fun with that for having you guys on today. But yeah, let's talk about this. I mean, you guys finished 4th in the regular season, but you're still top 50 RPI when the final conference standings had come out. Obviously, that's changed now because we've had the conference tournament and whatnot. You end up finishing the season 31 and 21, that was the 2025 record. I'm sorry. So this is the regular season record for this year was 29-27. Obviously, gets better after you go on a pretty good run there in the Sunbelt tournament. What were your guys' feelings going into the tournament? I mean, did you feel like you had to go on a run to make the NCAA tournament?
I felt like we were firmly on the bubble going into the tournament, and we needed to do something to put us over the edge because you knew that other conferences had other teams in the same position that were thinking the same thing. And so that going into the tournament, we needed to have a statement win or two. Taking care of South a couple times mattered, and then taking care of Southern Miss once mattered. I feel like that was enough to get us over the hump. Especially that Southern Miss win and pushing us into that third game there. That was huge. But I feel like going into it, we needed something. We needed a statement piece from the conference tournament to push us over the edge. I agree with that.
Yeah, we needed to win 2 games, I thought. And I mean, if you go back, it's hard to play revisionist history, but if you go back and look at that Sunbelt tournament, if it's South Alabama eliminating Troy instead of the other way around, I don't think we're sitting here on this podcast tonight. I think it's as simple as 1 game. And so because we were able to win that game and send those folks back down to Foosackleys to work their shifts, it helped us to continue, get to play Southern Miss again. And that's what really built us up. I think our resume just enough to get in, and that's apparently all we needed.
On Selection Sunday, was there any surprise as were you kind of like 50-50 shot? Was there any surprise when you guys got in?
I was looking for our name and I was starting to sweat because the obvious regionals had come and gone. Auburn had come and gone, Bama on. Even Athens I think was on the table. Tallahassee was more on the table than Gainesville. And so by the time those had already come and gone, I was like, oh no, did we really for 2 years in a row get the raw end of the stick? And thankfully, whenever Gainesville popped up and our name appeared, I breathed a big sigh of relief. But I agree, going into it, I didn't know if that Southern Miss win was enough, but I had hoped it was. I was not as confident as Coach Meade says that he is, and that he had no doubt. Because I had doubt, and look, there were other teams that were kind of in this position. NC State was going to get the nod because of the coaching thing. Kentucky, an SEC team, was going to get the nod even if they're, 12 and 48. They could be 12 and 48, and they have the SEC patch on their chest, and they're going to get the nod. I'm shocked they didn't find a way to put Vandy and LSU in. So. It's one of those things where, you're in the Sun Belt and everybody knows we're a good conference, but they don't get the same respect that other conferences in our position get just because of the letters on those kids' chests. And I'm thankful that the committee had the brains to put 5 teams in from our conference, even if it didn't pan out for the other 4. Very pleased that worked out for them.
Yeah. I mean, we'll start with Marv on this one. So, because we didn't talk about this in the after effect, we talked about it in the preview going up to it. But Marv, our 2 best teams, right? The 2 teams that finished at the top of this conference in Coastal and Southern Miss didn't win a single game.
Yeah.
In their regionals. I think the more shocking one's probably Southern Miss, right?
Yeah. I mean, hosting at home, 40 plus wins going into it, the 9 RPI, you thought like, hey, because we ranked who we thought could get through, right? And we said, hey, at home, they probably got as good a chance as anybody. And yeah, to lose both games and have to sit there and watch somebody else advance to a super regional while you're not even playing anymore, had to be a terrible feeling.
Yeah. I don't think Coastal was all that shocking, right? They were kind of on a downturn.
Yeah,
and
they were 3 out of their last 13.
Something like that.
Going into the tournament, obviously they beat App, but they started off good. We kept talking, oh man, if they can get their pitching staff back. It almost seems like when they got the regular starters back, they didn't play well.
Right. Yeah, they just I don't know what it was. Really, just the moxie of that team from last year did not seem to exist in the same realm this year. And of course, they did go through a lot of injuries, and I think that's a massive part of it. But look, we didn't even try this. Troy is the very center point of this graphic, and they are the team that is representing us in the Sun Belt. Kind of fitting now that the T is there in the center of the graphic, kind of bringing home the power. And again,
where else were you going to put them?
It is right and just.
I mean, I will say it's literally fitting because your guys' symbol is about the skinniest of the ones that we have in the Sun Belt. Actually, the app block A is probably the closest, right? Because it kind of goes the other direction, narrow at the top, gets a little wider. Your start's a little wider at the top and gets narrow. But those two are the hardest to kind of group. Everything else has kind of got like a roundish aspect to it, or like the Cajuns and like Georgia Southern, very squared or rectangular. But the T is kind of on its own, the power T there, kind of on its own. So it was just kind of fitting that you guys, I'm glad personally that I had 5 graphics ready. I was like, hey, I'm going to make graphics ready that all these teams get in. We'll see what happens. Marvin, I, and Seth were texting before, like, we're pretty solid with like 3, hoping for 4. I think all of us thought 5 was kind of a long shot, with honestly, with how the season kind of ended for a couple teams. But I'm happy to see it. And I'm happy that we got another team in Omaha. We got somebody to cheer for and a reason to keep watching more college baseball. It's going to be fun.
Yeah, I mean, I felt better about Troy even before we got our bid than I did about Southern Miss. Just because I got a lot of experience dealing with Southern Miss fans on different message boards and Facebook groups, just a real great group. And I'll tell you, you start to deal with these fan bases and you can start to feel when you're like, man, I don't know if you really feel this way. I think you're like putting up this front about how great you are, but I think if you get tested in a certain way, you're going to fall apart. And that's exactly what happened. And then on y'all's preview podcast, Dom, you called Jacksonville State an in-state rival for Southern Miss, which we just love. We'd be happy for Mississippi to take Jacksonville, the entire city. They can have it. And then Dave Schultz from Locked On Sunbelt, who just loves me, huge fan of the Troy Boyz. He also just was convinced, that Southern Miss could beat Lou Gehrig and the Yankees, and the second I heard that, I was like, man, these guys are going to lose the coin toss and there isn't even one. I felt like it was not good for them. So I'm happy it worked out that way. Couldn't have happened to a better group of people.
Yeah. Tyler jumping in here. He's had a couple comments already, but obvious Troy fan wanted to share his thoughts. He says the story goes the coach asked the committee what needed to change in the season after missing last year, and they told him out of conference. So he was kind of told what to fix. So it's a great point that he found out and he fixed it. And it was obvious that he did, because he then said, we put in the work. We did what they said we didn't do last year. We should be in. And again, maybe that is exactly what gave him the confidence that other people lacked, including at least me. I don't know, Marv, were you kind of lacking I thought Texas State, Troy, I think Louisiana, by that point, we felt those 3, the top 2 teams in Louisiana, had all kind of comfortably made it in. We were kind of on the fence about Texas State and Troy on that last weekend there, right?
Yeah, I mean, I was driving home and updating the bracket, and when I saw Troy get in, just the way mine fell, they were the last team in, and I was like, man, I'm surprised we got a 5th team in. Obviously, hosting a Sunbelt podcast, super excited to have 5 teams in, but I thought the whole time that Texas State, Louisiana, and Troy had to make a little bit of progress in the tournament to get in. I didn't think the body of work was complete per se, but when you're in a conference like this, when you go to a tournament and you get to play a South Alabama with a high RPI, Texas State, Louisiana, Southern Miss, and you put together some wins, yeah, you kind of say, all right, maybe the resume is now complete. But I was a little surprised that we got 5 in, and I thought Troy was the last one in, but here we are now, and it doesn't even matter.
Nope, it doesn't, because they are where they want to be. So let's take a look back at this Gainesville regional that you get. This was not easy. I mean, I think we can all admit that Ryder was one that everyone's like, all right, that one's kind of the speed bump of the group, unfortunately for them. No one expected a lot out of them, but you were playing on the road in Florida, and Miami's traveling up. They're not necessarily scared of Florida because they play them in so many other sports. As probably some familiarity with Gainesville. What were your honest thoughts, Joe? We'll start with you. Going into this, did you think it was going to be very difficult? Did you think it was going to be rather easy? I mean, I don't know what you guys thought going into the Gainesville regional.
No, I think anytime you wind up, with kind of an SEC and an ACC, obviously, if you look at the way things were seeded out, those are the 2 power conferences according to the people who matter. And so, you'd rather put yourself in a better position. And then we come out and lose 10-5 to Miami, and that starts to feel like, oh man, we're really in it. But as things progressed, I think what you ended up seeing was exactly what we're talking about, a Troy team that wasn't scared to be in that position. Whereas I think a lot of other teams would have been. You lose a game, that first game, and you start to think, oh my gosh, sure is a long bus ride back to Pike County. But this team never really seemed to have that thought. So didn't seem to scare them that Florida and Miami were there. And so I was glad to see them play the way they played with that kind of heart. And that's when things really start to turn around. I mean, you've already talked about Jabe. Everybody's calling him Jabe Ruth now. Back on May 9th, less than a month ago, he was batting 141 and had one home run.
That's crazy.
So the fact that, all of a sudden, it's only crazy if it doesn't work, right? I mean, it seems like Skylar Meade has pulled off the ultimate do not shoot until you see the whites of their eyes moment, where he has let loose the dogs of war, as we say in Troy, at the very last moment when he needed them most. And it's working. And everybody will call him a genius till it doesn't. And this Gainesville Regional was an example of that. And so very proud to see that kind of fight. And I know Bass followed that regional pretty closely as well, especially after he attended what a lot of Troy fans refer to as the Heartbreak Regional, where we lost to Alabama a few years ago.
Sure did. That was tough. This Gainesville Regional, we walked in, I wouldn't say with a chip on our shoulder, but in the position of, we knew that we were kind of behind the 8 ball for everything. And we could either roll over or take control. And we went up against a Miami team that was just hungry, to stamp themselves in. And we fell that first night. And then came back and took care of business, one after another. We're just kind of picking you off. And Ryder was fine. Miami was a scrappy, tight game. I'm glad we pulled that one out. And then Florida, man, I just felt like we demoralized them there in the 6th inning, the first time we played them, and they just never recovered. That they constantly were playing catch up. Their pitching could not get anything going. And it felt like after that first game against Florida, that 6th inning, it was over for them from that point on. Like, as soon as we finished that first game, I went ahead and booked my hotel room for the Super in Troy.
Nice.
I was that confident that we were going to beat Florida the next day, and that we were either playing Little Rock or Jacksonville State. And so I was pretty confident at that point we were in a good position to host. And so I went ahead and booked a hotel. And then sure enough, the next day Florida comes in, just flat, not ready to play. And they just roll over like a good SEC opponent and let the real team take their own regional at home.
And I will say on behalf of all Troy fans, since it was in Gainesville, that we all deeply hope that John Summerall was there to watch his new employer lose to Troy. Not that he probably even remembers coaching at Troy, since he has such little loyalty, but I do hope he was there and that he was able to witness that. I wasn't too busy, with off-season stuff. But if John's listening, kick rocks.
Best wishes. Oh man, yeah. So I mean, that was the crazy part to me, was that 10-5 loss with Miami, coupled with the fact that the other teams in the sunbelt all lost, except for Texas State. They were our lone winner on night 1 in the regional round. And you're just like, oh my gosh, we got the 5 in. Everyone's either elated or excited, or now the naysayers are going to come in and go, see, told you shouldn't have had 5 in. And what does Troy do in response? They win the next 4 straight. They won, like you said, Bass, easily over Ryder, 15-7. They get past Miami, like you said, scrappy game there, 9-6. Then you beat Florida 16-11. That's the thing that I want to kind of start to focus on here a little bit, is like, this team isn't going to be outgunned at the plate. Like, this is where Troy excels with the power behind the plate. And 16-11 over an SEC team, doesn't matter what names on the jersey at that point. You went blow for blow with somebody who was playing at home. And then, like you said, Seabass, they demoralized them because 10-2 in the last one. I mean, it wasn't even close. So it was great that you went ahead and got your hotel. Probably got a little cheaper then, I think, right?
Substantially cheaper. I was that guy that kept up with it just for funsies, and it was the right move.
Very nice. Very nice. So then all this happens, and you're like, great, we're moving on. We've done our job. And lo and behold, the low seed from the other regional that you were matched up with to go to the Supers becomes this team that no one expected in Little Rock, which now means Troy is hosting. I mean, everything came together for this to be some type of magical craziness. I mean, it's your first Super that you've ever hosted. I mean, we saw stuff. Marv, I don't know how much you saw. I was scrolling social media, seeing all this stuff. There was people watching from the football field, from some other high vantage point. Like, everybody was watching from Pike County, it seems like. Everybody just came in to try and take this game in. I guess I got to ask you two guys, like, were you there in person, either one of you, for – well, we know Bass was, but Joe, were you there for this game in person too?
I was not. I was working. I was proud of the turnout. I lived in the international dorm, which is right next to the baseball stadium when I was a freshman. And a story came out that the university was having to prevent students who lived on the third floor of Pace Hall, which is our international dorm, from selling access to their bedrooms so that people could look over into the stadium. And I was like, that is absolutely what I would have done. Had this happened during my tenure, it would have been all inclusive also, beverages included. They might not be the best, but, it definitely gotten you to the ninth inning. So, but Bass was there, and I know he greatly enjoyed the experience.
Yes, talk a little bit about the environment, just kind of what it meant hosting your first regional against, another Trojan team. Just kind of talk about the environment, how cool it was.
He might be dealing with a toddler in the background, or he doesn't remember that he's on mute. I'm not sure.
We're going to find out here in just 1 second.
Yeah. Warren chiming in saying he heard the same thing about selling the access. Yeah, they ended up on Airbnb also. Okay, I think we got Bass back.
I'm back. There we go. I was muted the whole time. I didn't even notice it. Anyway, look, Little Rock was great. They were some wonderful fans. Everybody that came in was pumped and ready to go. Real hospitable people. Met a lot of nice people. And it was real nice to see that we had another set of Trojans coming in, and their school colors were almost the same. So it didn't matter who you were from the vantage point of ESPN. It looked like it was a Troy Trojan festival, and it was great. Look, the atmosphere was electric. It is everything I want out of every home game we could ever ask for. The fans were ruthless, but kind at the same time. They were everywhere, and people were vying for some of the best seats. Doubles Alley's always been a thing since I was a student. It started my sophomore year of college, and it's just kind of grown into something bigger and bigger over time. And the guys that have been out there for over a decade now, they got their spots, and they got to see and experience that from the typical vantage point. The city of Troy and Troy Athletics brought in some grandstands and bleachers we got on loan from the city of Gulf Shores. Thank you to them. And so that was very kind of them to loan those to us. Look, I want to give total hats and props to Troy's athletics department for pulling this off. That they had less than a week turnaround to make this happen. And this is something we don't do. We don't host super regionals. And this is something that they probably didn't think of. I was talking to some other people that do other podcasts for baseball. And they were talking about how I'm sure that the athletics office was like breathing a sigh of relief when we made regionals. They're like, no, we're done with home baseball season. Now we don't have to worry about away postseason. But yeah, I'm glad we got to do it. It was wonderful. It was electric. There were 2 sets of tickets. There was a set of tickets that were in the stadium, and you get to see in the baseball field. And then you have the general admission seats that were all out and around that you got to see out in the outfield. And then they had the vet wide open. So people that wanted to go into the vet and watch were more than welcome to. They could sit basically wherever they wanted to, except for at field level, basically. And they had the Jumbotrons playing the games. It was wonderful. It was great.
That's awesome. I want to give the same shout out, but from afar, right? I still see them posting stuff, telling, hey, this is what we're going to do for you. This is how we're preparing. I mean, they totally bought into the fact that, like, let's go ahead and make this a huge success and make everybody happy, because we've seen the opposite happen, right? We've seen people not be prepared. We've seen people not do what they can do to get everybody in there. Mm-hmm. And another shout out, because you guys also did it during the sunbelt tournament. They had to come to your home facility to get some games. So your guys' athletic department did like double duty when least expected here recently. So double time for them. Hopefully they got paid a little extra for that, because we know the athletic department employees don't always get the best pay. So hopefully there was a little bit extra thrown in there. Heard man saying bass is biting.
The best in the nest, yeah.
Boy, bye.
Appreciate it.
All right, so you're there. You're demolishing the other set of Trojans in game 1, 12-2. Was there really any doubt that game 2 was over?
I mean, there's always doubt, right? I mean, you don't get to a super regional being a bad team, right? So, Little Rock is a good team. They took out some good opponents. Jacksonville State is no slouch. Southern Miss is definitely not a slouch. And they played Virginia, right? So, I mean, look, there were some quality ball clubs out in Hattiesburg. May not be the best venue to watch baseball, but it was good on them to make it to this point. We just came in on fire. It was the atmosphere. Game 1 versus game 2 felt different. The play style was different. And so I felt that game 1 was kind of in the bag. By the 4th inning, I was comfortable at that point. It was like, we're going to take care of business and finish this. The second game had me concerned, because you made your way to the super regionals. You're not going to roll over and take it. And so I was expecting Little Rock to show up and be far more scrappy game 2 than they were in game 1, and potentially make it to game 3.
Interesting. Joe, did you have thoughts from a distance on that one?
Yeah, just that. I think I agree. Ben Stubbs in game 1 was just felt really lights out, and then Egan, coming in the second game. Although really, when you go look at the stats, not a lot of separation. But it just definitely, sometimes a pitcher feels more in control, than otherwise. And so I think that's why that first game felt, it was very confident that we were going to win. Whereas the second game, and also, I mean, Troy people have, and other Sunbelt fan bases might have similar issues. Troy people have a big fear of a letdown after something good happens. We've seen it happen. We beat LSU in 2017 and then lost to that team from Mobile on a Thursday. We have had the good, and then the bad has immediately followed. So I think we're kind of used to that and being a little skittish of it. So I'm really glad to see, Troy come out and really be dominant. And I think it's, I see a lot of people posting about Troy on Facebook that I went to Troy with that never post about it. And so, to have a reason to get them back into rooting for their alma mater, that's the whole purpose of athletics. We sometimes forget that, but it really is to connect people to the school. So, although as our most famous head coach, Larry Blakeney, once said, I've never seen anybody buy a ticket to watch a biology test. And that's very true. But that is the point, is to be the front porch of the university. So, and this event did an excellent job of that for 13,000+ people.
Yeah. And I'll piggyback on Joe to say that it's nice to see Troy alums come back to Troy, and support their alma mater. Troy is one of those schools where you're either bought in, or you're a fair weather fan, or you just don't care. And so a lot of the just don't cares, who are Bama fans and Auburn fans with no affiliation to either institution, are now saying, you know what, I'm going to support my alma mater now. And that's cool to see. And I hope that they stay. They don't just disappear after 2 weeks from now.
Yeah. very true.
You know, I got to say, I'm disappointed to hear you're not going to Omaha because I have a feeling that if you were there, that Jello shot record at that bar would be absolutely destroyed.
Look, that is like the saddest part of this is I have like stacks of cash I would take, and I wouldn't even consume them all. I would just start handing them out because I need that Troy number to not be embarrassing. Okay,
Yeah.
so
No,
if you're going to
keep it
Omaha,
respectable.
yeah, look, go get you about 6-7 Jello shots, and then go back and get some more. Yeah, thank you, Dom. I appreciate that.
Six or seven. What is this, breakfast? Come on, set those numbers up.
Look,
Rookie numbers.
I gotta wet my whistle before I get real good into it. All right.
Well, speaking of wet whistle, you're going to be handing people wet money. You know, swimming upstream, you just be wet.
We don't deal in cash. It's all coins or pebbles. It just depends on the currency.
Well, you brought up an interesting point, right? You say more people are coming around. I mean, I think that's kind of the same thing for everything, right? Like James Madison goes to the college football playoff. I heard the same thing back when App State started winning national championships in football. I literally had someone whose mother went to App, and she was currently at App as a student, and she said, my mom does not care about sports at all. But all of a sudden she starts talking to people, and some of the first things she always says is like, yeah, I went to App State, you know? So these things are great for people to connect back to the university. But I have an interesting question here. You said you've seen more people commenting on maybe the baseball aspect. Do you think, is this like clearly and easily bigger of a deal than making the NCAA tournament, especially 2 years in a row for you guys? But like, is baseball such an anomaly because, you know, you didn't host a Super before, you haven't made it to Omaha? Is this like just clearly bigger than basketball?
Well, I would say that part of it is just the environment that is the state of Alabama. Baseball is a far more popular sport than basketball. And so that's something that a lot of our, you know, region really gravitates to. So with a baseball team that's successful, people see that.
Yeah, and it's a locality thing. When you're the smallest town in the United States to host a Division I-A athletic program, there's something about an event coming to the town that makes it a much bigger deal. Even if it's the super regionals of Tiddlywinks, people are going to be more invested in it. And so basketball, it's great that we've done great, and people get behind that, but it's kind of hard when it's like, congratulations, you've made it in the field of 64. Please fly to Seattle with 3 days notice and watch your team play the Golden State Warriors. Okay. That's a hard sell. Whereas the super regional, you've already proved success in the postseason, and you're just asking them to leave the barbecue house on 231 about 10 minutes earlier than they planned to. So that makes it a lot easier.
Yeah.
Hey,
go ahead.
Yeah. You had a matchup with Nebraska. They'd never made it to the NCAA basketball tournament before. That was a great matchup. Somebody was going to get their first tournament win.
Yeah, I mean, look, our basketball team is great. No disrespect to Coach Cross or Coach Rigby. They've done a wonderful job, and then love those student athletes. But like Joe said, it is simpler to get the people in town there when it's in your backyard, and that meant something to our town, and it meant something to the community that is Troy. And so we took advantage of that and really showed up and showed out.
Yeah. Hey, Trojan Joe. Ben is saying this is the only time he's rooting for Troy as an A-State fan. So you've gained another bandwagon fan right now, just for this Omaha run. So look at that, coming together. Sunbelt fans coming together. He's also agreeing that, you know, being over to Omaha is kind of like all-time height, granddaddy of college. I mean, I think like college football playoff, just because the amount of eyes and attention that's on the sport of football would be the biggest thing. But I mean, I think you're probably right. I think, especially in this conference overall, I think everybody would pretty much value Omaha run higher than basketball, because like you said, maybe sans like Marshall, which is more like basketball country than baseball up there. Probably James Madison too. But I think ODU's kind of split pretty evenly, I'd say. Marv, you may have a little bit more. You've been around the Norfolk area. You get this feeling that like basketball or baseball may be bigger there?
I think in the South in general, baseball is a bigger sport than basketball. It just is. It's a summertime thing. You know me, I'm not a basketball fan at all, could care less. I might watch a total of 11 minutes of basketball all season. Just doesn't do anything for me. So I'm always going to err on the side of baseball. And would it be weird to say that Sunbelt's a baseball conference?
Nope.
I mean, it would be incorrect.
Joe, I'm about to say Joe has some strong feelings on this. So.
Yeah, Dom and I have argued about this many times. The Sun Belt, I mean, because there is only one right answer here. And luckily for me, it's mine. The Sun Belt Conference is designed to be a football conference. It's why it exists. It's why this was the biggest day in the history of Troy baseball, point blank, period. And we brought in at most 7,000 fans. I was at the home games when Neil Brown was struggling to go 3-9. There were more than 7,000 people in the vet. And I get that it's a different sport, but it's a sport that people care about more. Yeah. And so we can, you can't just claim to be another sport conference because you're better at it. Because we are formed around the idea that football is important and football is made better by geographical rivalries. That's our whole purpose of existence. It's why JMU, who would be happy to tell you they are the bell cow of this conference after 3.5 days of being here, they basically don't even have a baseball team. And I mean, they don't care. You never saw any of their obnoxious fans on Facebook saying, I wish we were doing better. They don't care. They're waiting for August. So baseball's great. I love baseball. Troy's doing great in baseball. If you asked a Troy fan right now, hey, we can lose 2 games straight in Omaha, but be guaranteed to go perfect in the next football season, most fans would take it.
I don't disagree that baseball is an important facet to the conference. I think it is. I think it's a part of our identity as a conference, and it's getting better with time. Texas State leaving, is not a loss in my opinion.
It's positive.
I think it's a net positive for the conference. I don't know that the addition of Louisiana Tech is the solution, and I had opinions on all of that, but I'm not going to go down that road. We can wait to July 1st to talk about all that. But I feel like I agree with Joe that our conference was built to be a football conference initially, and that's what will continue to happen regardless of how well baseball is going. But I do think baseball is a part of our brand identity as the Sun Belt as well.
Yeah, it's the second most important sport, right? It's the second most.
I would say that.
Yeah, I would easily agree with that. And listen, we put a team into the college football playoff, and now we got one going to Omaha, and there's no other mid-major conference that can say that. So, eat it.
I mean, in the span of a year, you got Coastal that made it to the finals. You got JMU that made it to the playoffs, and now Troy's back. And that's 3 completely different teams, and so I think that as a conference, it's a really good showing. And I think our conference now I'm going to start getting down this rabbit hole because I care about this stuff. The Sun Belt Conference as a whole is really not good at branding itself. The conference, the Sun Belt Conference does not brand itself very well. They don't bell cow themselves enough. They don't say the right things at the right times. We should be blasting that everywhere. That right now we have 3 completely different teams to make the postseason. Who else has done that but the kids who have $7 billion in their pockets? We can't say that, but we should be.
That's got to sit right on Commissioner Gill's desk. I think it falls on one person and one person only.
And so I think that in order for our conference to gain more respect over time, which we've done it athletically, our teams are starting to do the things that we were asked to do. We're doing those things. Our chancellors and commissioners and presidents are putting forth the resources necessary to do the things we wanted to set out to do whenever we basically rebranded and rebuilt the conference in 2012. We kind of hit the reset button basically as a conference. Yeah. We just, as far as branding, we're not stellar. We don't advertise ourselves strongly.
Yeah, I don't. When Grayson McCall finishes his marketing degree in 10 years, he is going to take this thing to the next level.
Oh man! Well, also we got to shout out Marshall. Just 2 seasons ago, made it to the soccer national championship. So we've put multiple teams in multiple sports into championships and done a really good job at not pushing that as much as we probably should as a conference.
Mm-hmm.
You're right about that. My argument for the baseball aspect isn't that the conference was built around baseball or that it was trying to be built around baseball, but that we routinely have teams who could win championships, national championships, more often every year in baseball than any other sport. And I still think that
that's fair.
But I don't disagree that football is king, always will be king. I can point you to every analytic that we've ever done. Some of our biggest shows, Marv, have been a recap of what happened the week before in football. And they dwarf what we see for basketball and even baseball. Although what's funny is baseball clearly clears basketball and analytics when we look at the shows looking back. So again, I think this crowd, these fans of our team specifically, that's why we say we're a power baseball conference. We might not have all the money the ACC and SEC and even the Big 12 have, but we have the interest and we have the diehards that just love and live baseball. Like we said, the South is more baseball heavy than anywhere else. So that's why I say we are a baseball conference, more for the success aspect than just this is the only thing we care about. No, I'm not saying that. And I agree with you. Football will always be king. That will never change. I think, to be honest, football is the national pastime of this country more so than baseball is, at least now. But I think that's been that way for a little bit. All right, off on our tangent. Let's get to the fact that you guys were the first team to make it to Omaha, make this thing official, and you were the first. I believe you were first team to know your matchup as well. And now we know it across the board here. You are playing the West Virginia Mountaineers. There's no history between your two programs. There's no coaching connection that was going to be brought up as soon as the broadcast kicks off, I'm sure. Is this kind of like, in some way, like just totally fitting for you guys?
Go ahead, Joe.
Yeah, of course. I mean, old Benedict Brown is finally getting what was coming for him. But, no, and in all honesty, I actually went on – there's a great podcast called The Voice of Motown, which is all about the West Virginia sports. And before they fired Neil Brown, they brought me on basically to, be his defense attorney to try to tell him why we liked him so much in Troy. And so I think there were some hurt feelings the way he was treated there. Troy people really liked Neil. He came back when he left Troy and thanked everyone and did just a great job. He donated and built a player recruiting lounge at Troy. So there was some animosity there. But West Virginia fans, from what in my experience, they don't need any reason to not like you. Like, they'll be happy to not like you for free. You don't have to give them an excuse. They'll just do it because it's Tuesday. And Troy fans are like that too. I mean, let me let you guys in on a little secret. We didn't care about that junior college in Mobile for years. We didn't even know they existed. And then Jack Hawkins, our great chancellor, stood up one day and said, "Hey, we now hate them." And we all said, "We got it, Captain. We hate them. Let's go burn it down." And I mean, that's just how Troy people are. So we're happy to not like West Virginia. West Virginia's happy to not like us. Let's get it on. Let's see what happens.
Gotta love it. Bash, thoughts on this matchup from your side?
Oh, well, we broke this game down a little bit more intensely in our episode, pushing us into Omaha, which will come out tomorrow morning. But from a baseball perspective, West Virginia is a very balanced ball club. They play disciplined and they can hit some dingers. So we've got to go into this game not making the same little errors that we made against Little Rock and the ones that didn't bite us. And we can't play like we did whenever we started out in Gainesville. We got to come out hot, electric, on fire, play inning to inning, safe, sound baseball, and just crush it whenever the opportunity presents itself. That's the winning recipe for this game. And hopefully we found ourselves in the winner's half of this bracket.
Yeah. Marv, you have any thoughts on this matchup from your side of things? Do we have him, Marv? Did he freeze?
Maybe. He got upset about my Neil Brown joke. They do kind of favor each other, so I get it.
Terrible.
Oh man, I don't know. Maybe it does look like he's frozen. So we'll see if
he just glitched. Did he move?
Yeah, his eyes are now closed, but they're staying closed. So you put him to sleep, boys. What are we doing here? What are we doing here?
I'm telling you.
Oh man. All right. Well, yeah. I mean, look. I mean, we'll keep it more simple. I want people to go and listen and take in your show because, like you said, you're going to get into it a little bit more. This is more for all of us to get familiar with you guys going into this thing.
Mm-hmm.
But look, it's about offense versus a team that plays a little bit probably better small ball, would you say? I mean, I'm simplifying this here, but West Virginia doesn't hit the amount of home runs that Troy hits. They don't have the bats that Troy does. Right?
No, they don't. I mean, well, they're good. I mean, again, to get to this point, you have to be a good team. You can't suck to get here. So, I mean, they're good. They can hit the ball. But, they have a fielding percentage of a 9.79 and only have 45 errors on the year. So I mean that's clean ball, that they're making the right moves at the right time with well-positioned players, and so if, like I said, we've just got to be able to hit dingers whenever the opportunity presents itself, because if we put it in play, they're going to take advantage.
It's a shame Marv's not here, because when I pass away, Marv's going to be a honorary pallbearer at my funeral, so he can let me down one last time. But he could really tell us, like, I don't know how good Cal Poly is. And so one thing I think Troy fans are struggling with, and certainly in our episode, you're going to hear us struggle with it, is like, yeah, West Virginia beat Cal Poly like they stole something. But is that because West Virginia is really good? Or did Cal Poly kind of find a pocket and get into this super regional situation where they really didn't belong? I don't know. I will admit to you, I did not follow Cal Poly baseball very intensely. So
how dare you, sir?
Love to hear that. I know. From now on, I will get, whenever they're playing Fullerton, I'll be sure to have my eyes on ESPN Plus at 3 a.m. But I would love to hear Marv's thoughts about Cal Poly. But, that's one of the hard things about baseball.
Well, I think, to be fair, and we'll maybe see if Marv has some thoughts about Cal Poly, because he's an expert on all things Cal Poly athletics. But
hey, Luis Obispo, buddy, let's go.
Oh, he's back.
What's funny about what you said about West Virginia having this matchup with Cal Poly? I mean, I think the same could be true for Troy. Like, I think a lot of people are probably looking at it going, "Hey, Troy lucked out; they got Little Rock." And as you guys said, you can't just say that and overlook Little Rock. They were there for a reason. They went through a pretty difficult regional and found themselves at the top. But did they run out of steam? And I think probably the same thing you could be saying for West Virginia. Like, maybe Cal Poly did have a run, but by the time they go and play at West Virginia, that run's over, right? They're going across the country to play in Morgantown. So it is interesting aspect. But Marv, I don't know if you had any thoughts. We were trying to go to you earlier about this matchup specifically, or anything that you thought stuck out to you on this. Oh, but Joe also wanted your expert opinion on Cal Poly.
Yeah, break it down.
Cal Poly probably got to Morgantown and looked up in the crowd, and the people smiled at them, and they didn't see any teeth. And they're like, "Holy shit, what are we doing here?"
There it is.
Completely off. And they were probably like, "We want to go home. Like, what's the quickest way that we can go home?" So
they heard banjo music, is what you're saying, right? They heard banjo.
And people can make the same joke about App State. It is what it is. No, I think you might have nailed the head. Hit it on the head there with, you had a good run, right? But now you got to travel across the country to play West Virginia, who's a good baseball team. That's a balanced baseball team, and maybe they just ran out of steam. But me looking at this matchup, you hear the old cliche phrase, like, playing with house money, right? Like, who gives a crap? Just go out there and play your brand of baseball, what got you here, and see what happens.
Yeah, I think one of the interesting aspects that you can look at is there was two common opponents throughout the season here, right? Both teams played Georgia Southern. We know that Troy somehow ended up losing that series, which is a shocker. They did get
so bitter, Betty, about all of that. That's when I felt like our baseball team was imploding.
Yeah. I mean, what's funny is, as you guys said, with Southern Miss was kind of similar, right? Like, Southern Miss was winning throughout most of the season, but they weren't winning enough. And then there was dropping some games. and there was some chatter and some stuff. This guy's not getting it done. We need to get a new head coach, which is just all crazy overreaction. Same thing was happening with Troy early part of the season, right? Like, hey, this team was great last year. We should have been in the tournament, and now we're not doing as well this year. But again, it goes to prove Coach Meade knew what he was doing, saying like, look, we may not have won, but if we perform decently and that RBI bumps up and the SOS is high, like this is what needs to happen. We need to go through some of these games that are rough and give us some hard time so we can learn, get better, and also, again, end up where you want to be at the end of the season in all the advanced metrics that they are going to lean on. The eye test is less of it, right? They're going to look at numbers on a piece of paper. Maybe they'll do blind resumes. I'm not really sure how they do it for baseball when they sit in that committee room, but they did enough on the Troy side of things to get it done. You guys both also played Maryland, where West Virginia won 10-3. Troy took the opener because they played a 3-game set, 5-2, but then dropped the next 2 games to them. But again, postseason baseball, different teams because they've gone through a whole lot before and after those games. But there is just a little bit of a measuring stick where it's weird where, these two teams likely never see each other on a regular basis, but they did have some common opponents. So maybe just a little something to take out of it. But let's also talk about the rest of this bracket. We know it only got filled out a little bit earlier today. You guys are on the – and to reminder, this is a bracket and still double elimination. It's going to work as Troy, West Virginia, Ole Miss, and UNC are all on the same side for those double elimination, and then everybody else is on the other side. That includes Oklahoma, Alabama. You guys don't know anything about that team. Texas, and then Georgia. But like you said, you've played 2 of these teams now in Georgia and Alabama on that other side. And so this, like you guys said, I mean, this is a field that does not scare you one bit, I don't think, right?
I agree. And, you can listen to all the SEC fans complain and moan and drone about that we don't reseed the brackets ever. But the bracket's built when the bracket's built. 1 to 64 is out there, and it's built. And so I feel like we landed on the good side of the 2 sides of this bracket. This is the side that I feel like we could be much more competitive with to get to the finals. I think the path for us is much simpler on this side. Not that, again, in slouches. I mean, to get to the final 8, you have got to be an elite team. And so I feel like, though, that West Virginia is a team that we're very capable of taking on, and then Ole Miss and UNC are also very capable teams. So I'd like for us to find our way onto that winner's bracket and go 2-0, and then force somebody to take us out.
Yeah. Is there anybody that you hope to see after West Virginia? I mean, I guess
I would like to see UNC because they have more cracks right now.
Okay.
They struggled against a USC team, and they needed a walk-off to even make it here. And so I feel like they're in panic mode right now, and they're going to see Ole Miss and fight to the death. And if we get handed Troy, they're going to be like, this is the easy one. And we just need to stomp their throat. That's the one I would prefer. Ole Miss is a scary team right now. They've kind of lit up here in the last couple weeks. And so that would be of the 4 of us on our half, that's the one I'm the most intimidated by. But hoping that we just get that past us and say it's another team and play the game.
Nice.
Yeah,
Joe, is there anybody?
Sure.
Yeah. Same thoughts?
No, I mean, I think I mean, you just saw Warren comment on here, and Bird has been talking this same insanity about we got to root for there to be a Troy, Alabama finals of this thing because apparently people want to see just the state burn. I don't think that would be good for anybody. But I mean, if it happens, there's not a scrap of Alabama gear in this house that's mine. So I'm happy to go down that route if that's where we're going. But yeah, I would like to be West Virginia and end up playing UNC if I had my druthers. But we'll just have to like Eminem in the battles in 8 Mile. I don't care who it is. So let's just go after whoever gets served up to us and play the games we have to play.
I like it. Marv is now our bad internet guy.
Yeah, I don't know what's going on. Either internet stinks or the computer's about to die. that top half of the bracket, I'm with Seabass. I think a Troy UNC matchup would be phenomenal. Second half of the bracket, I've been saying this for a long time. I think Texas has been the best team in the country all season. I think they're the most complete ball team. But now they got to go play Georgia, and I don't know if you guys caught any of that Georgia-Mississippi State series, but if you pitched the ball, it was getting out of the ballpark. If Georgia can stay hot. But it's going to be fun to watch. I'm really excited, and I hope Troy can get past West Virginia, play Carolina, and see what happens. And, you know, if it ends up being Troy, Alabama, we'll just watch the state burn, and we'll all sit back and enjoy.
Yes, we will. So, I mean, you guys got some guys that have come out of nowhere. Jabe Boroff being, you know, the biggest name, but Jimmy Janicki has been great at the catcher position. Do you think Jabe Ruth continues this streak? I mean, is it just like everything's just firing on all cylinders, and you just expect him to keep hitting the ball really well in this tournament?
Man, look, an object in motion stays in motion. So let's. I mean, if he's hot, he's hot. You know, let it keep riding. You know, I'm really hoping that Blake Cavell turns around. He's kind of he had a little drought there in the supers, so I'm kind of hoping he kind of picks back up and becomes another solid hitter for us. But yeah, I think Jay will be just fine and keep going.
Yeah, we're deeper on hitters than we're giving credit for. I think the real question is, do we continue to see the current dominance of Tommy Egan? You know, Tommy currently has 99 strikeouts. That is 2 away from the Troy University single season record that was set in 2014 by Shane McCain, whose name rhymes, which is great, but who also made some money playing a little bit of professional baseball. So, you know, I mean, he's certainly, we need him to smash that record. That needs to be gone. Sorry, Shane, wherever you are. That record needs to be no more by the time we're done with West Virginia, because we need great pitching, and Tommy is certainly going to be one of the keys to that. So we have some hitters that can, you know, if Jabe was to get in some trouble or cool down a little bit, could back us up. The question really is going to be, can our pitching keep it, especially with our fielding problems? We're still seeing more errors than I'd like to see. And so you've got to have a great pitcher up there, especially if you're going to have some problems out in the field, which we've unfortunately continued to have even during this great hot streak. So I'm excited to see that.
Makes sense, guys. Marv, you got any last questions for these fellas?
No question. Just, you know, rooting for you guys. Carry the sunbelt. I'd love to see you guys in a best of 3 here early next week.
Yeah, that would be great. Guys, first of all, want to give you the opportunity to end with anything you want, but definitely end with the more introspective look at the actual matchup between you and West Virginia when your podcast drops again tomorrow.
All right, Seabass, go ahead.
Yeah, like I said, you know, West Virginia is a very balanced ball club. That they're going to come in and play clean, methodical ball, especially on defense. So, like we've just got to hit balls and get them out. You know, if we give them opportunities for them to field some balls, we're going to have some problems and struggle. We just got to play inning to inning. Don't think about the big picture. Win this inning, win the next inning, win the next inning, and I think we'll get out of this game just fine. And we just can't let the big moment shine too hard on us. But we're fortunate in that West Virginia, this is their first time too. You know, they've never been in this position either. So we again got a really good lucky draw in that the other team on the other side is in the same spot that we are. One of us is walking away with their first win in Omaha. And also one of us is walking away with their first loss in Omaha. So I'm hoping the win is with the good guys. You know, like you said, if you want a more in-depth deep dive, we spoke more about this earlier on our podcast recording, which will drop tomorrow morning. Troy Boyz podcast, find us Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, all that fun stuff. We're pretty much everywhere. This is our quiet season. You know, we're primarily a football podcast, but so for us to do something for baseball is almost unheard of. I feel like this is probably the second time we've ever talked about baseball. The other time was that Tuscaloosa regional that we heartbreakingly fell apart on. So
see, baseball conference, fellas. You've done it.
Oh boy, here we go.
Madness. But thanks for having us, man. It's been a pleasure.
Yeah, I always love having you guys. I'm pretty sure Trojan Joe is the most repeat offender. Maybe is the word I should use here instead of guest. I don't know.
Definitely an offender.
Yeah, yeah. Identities will be concealed to protect the guilty. That's certainly the how it goes in the Sunbelt Syndicate. No, I think this is just a great time for Troy athletics, certainly for Troy baseball. I think that it's become an unfortunate part of the character and the charism of Troy athletics, but it's there, so I just have to deal with it. And that is that the loss that our football team took to App State in Boone when y'all had game day has reshaped every single athletic team that has come after it, because Troy has adopted this idea that it's almost, I say it's like being Bane from Batman. We walk into every situation and go, you've merely adopted the dark. I was born in it, raised by it. So we say we've already been through the hard thing. You can't scare us because we know that we can recover from the hard. We can recover from the worst possible thing, losing on a Hail Mary, or, losing the women's basketball team, losing on an over and back. These types of things have become the backbone of Troy sports, no matter what the sport is. And I think baseball has kind of had that with the tough schedule they've had. So I hope they look forward in the way that Troy has done in other sports and say, this is all, at this point, these are all just games. And we go out and play them. And if other people freeze up because they're nervous or they mean too much, that's a them problem. We're just going to go out here and play the game we love and play it for the school we love and play it for the name on the front of our jerseys and not the name on the back of our jerseys. So proud always to unofficially represent Troy University as the Troy Boyz podcast. I hope everybody will check us out. Find the Troy Boyz anywhere on social media. Feel free to say good things about us, bad things about us. But most importantly, make sure that you tell Bird he's got to get that tattoo, because at this point, It's been almost a year.
Are we still waiting on that? But that's it.
So thanks for having the Troy Boyz.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Watch is still out.
It's getting bad. Yeah. I asked him today if the tattoo gun was stuck in the Strait of Hormuz. That's how bad it's gotten. So we're just gonna see when it happens, but it's got to happen soon.
Oh man. Well, hey, maybe there's a good reason to get 2 tattoos. He gets the one he was supposed to already have, and he gets a College World Series trophy added with it. That would be phenomenal. Yeah. The first pitch,
just a Jay Bruth tattoo.
There you go. I like that. I like that even better. 1 p.m. Central Time, 2 p.m. Eastern Time for those of us on the East Coast over here. First pitch on Friday. There's another little tournament that starts around that time called, just a little World Cup or something. But this is what's going to kick that off, right? Because we got baseball before we got soccer for those that care about that other boring sport. But enjoy the tournament. We'll be here to wrap some things up. But hopefully we don't have to wrap up. We're just talking about what's going to come later in the week for the Troy Trojans. Thanks for joining us. Thanks for jumping on or listening later, and we'll see you next time.